George. Good evening. This is the Thursday, May 10th, 2018 Town of Monroe Planning Board workshop meeting. I'd like to point out the exits to you, or for you. It's one exit to the front of us on the right-hand side by the kitchen. The main entrance is to the left in front of us. And then there is another entrance behind us through this other space behind us. With that, Noreen, can you do the roll call?
Anthony Vaccaro.
Here.
Lisa McQuaid.
Here.
Rich Triano.
Here.
Bonnie Franson.
Here.
James McKnight is absent. Jason Serwinski.
Here.
Jeff Manson.
Here.
Okay.
All right, let's stand for the pledge.
Oh, sorry.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, the first item on the agenda is a new project, Kingsville Synagogue. Do we have representatives here? Great. If you'd come up and tell us what the proposal is.
Hello, everyone. My name is David Nimatko. I'm the architect of the project. And this project is, hold the mic in a little more. Pull it closer. There you go. Okay, great. So this project is an existing house structure on a property. Several years ago, it changed ownership to Kingsville Synagogue. As a result of that, they started to use the basement as a place of worship. So this was in violation of the code because it didn't have approvals from the proper agencies, and violation notices were issued to the owner. And that's what brings us here to you today, or this evening. We prepared the plans to show how this place of worship or place of assembly does comply with the code. It complies with we tried to make it comply with the zoning code. We submitted plans to show compliance with the International Building Code once certain other items are done or more construction is done to make this area of the basement comply with the code. The zoning code review is on the bottom right of Plan SP1. We've outlined all of the items of the zoning code that would comply, or would apply to this project. And we gave our responses to each. It meets the lot area requirements, it meets some of the setbacks. There are two areas that we're asking that the planning board consider. It is within the province of the planning board to render a decision on these, or to grant a waiver. Those two items are regarding seating, whether it should be fixed or can remain loose like these are, and the other is the location of the parking. So these are items that we would want to discuss a little further once it's agreeable with the planning board.
Well, was there any review prepared for these, Sean?
There is. I have draft comments that we can go over.
Okay.
Can I have a copy of the comments?
Not tonight, just because these are draft,
Oh,
but
okay.
for Tuesday night's meeting,
Okay.
you can give us a copy. First off, it's noted as a plot plan on the plans. Typically, this is for site plan approval, so we'd like to see it labeled as a site plan.
Sure.
And we don't see the road depicted.
I'm sorry, I can't.
We don't see the road depicted on the plans.
Kingsville Court. Okay.
Yeah, right. So it's tough to kind of orient yourself without that.
Right. It looks like originally that house got access from Kingsville Drive from South Blooming Grove, but it also, is there a connection going out to County Route 44?
No.
No, because it's showing up on
The only access
Google.
is from Kingsville Court.
Okay.
And then topography may be applicable here, we're not sure. I guess
Right.
that would have to be determined whether,
So in the new code, anytime there's a lot area, minimum lot area requirement, the environmental constraints have to be subtracted from it. So I don't know if there's some topography on the site that would have to be excluded when calculating the minimum lot area. So I think what Sean's saying is just see whether there's any of these environmental constraints. It doesn't look like you have wetlands or floodplains, et cetera, but steep slopes would be subtracted.
continue.
Well,
So you would have to,
we'd have to
Show
address
topography,
that
right.
With a survey.
With an updated survey.
Right.
All right, actually, that's reasonable, without question. So I could talk to the owner about having an updated survey done.
Sure.
Okay,
so just so you know, that's in 57-21.1 of the law.
okay.
Next, the first sheet of the plan, that SP1, is labeled as page 1 of 1. Sheet A2 is labeled as 2 of 3.
Yes.
So,
Yeah, just to bring the board up to date, this was part of a package that addressed a few concerns of the building department, few of the violations, so we can tailor it to make it just for the planning board, so we'll do a 1 of 2 and a 2 of 2.
sure.
Okay.
Total floor area should be provided for the entire structure to confirm the indicated floor area ratio value. And then it should be identified whether this is a residence or is it occupied by the owner or by a tenant.
I think in our cover letter, we note that it's occupied by the owner.
Okay.
I think that's a requirement for the place of worship.
Yes, and in fact, I think it's listed as one of the prerequisites in your zoning code, and we do list it as owner occupied, and it is.
Okay. Mark notes that permissible maximum development coverage value is equivalent to 45% is incorrect on the table. Yeah. He has it much higher.
What are you including as coverage? Just the building area, or?
I believe the new code it's all impermeable.
It's all impervious. All impervious.
Impervious, right? Yeah.
Driveways, the proposed parking would all be included
The
within
pool,
lot
the
coverage?
deck. Yeah.
The pool and the deck.
Right. Next is about plant screenings.
Yes.
That's it's hard to tell since we don't have the road and neighboring houses. It's hard to tell if the 5 trees there are enough screening per the code. Their subsections Q4 and Q5.
Yes.
The plan depicts 16 sheets on A2, but it's unclear if this is a peak attendance referenced in Q6.
Yes.
It is.
It is.
Okay. I believe that has to be noted on the plans.
That it's peak attendance?
Right. And which is needed to confirm the required number of parking spaces. In addition, we're not sure which way the road is, of course, but per the code, parking is not allowed between the building and the road.
Yeah, that's something we want to discuss with the board.
Right.
As a waiver.
Okay. And then the applicant's table indicates the access frontage is to a major collector road per the town comprehensive plan. We don't understand the conclusion as this is a requirement of subsection Q7.
Well, it is not a part. I mean, it empties or exits and enters from Kingsville Court, which
Okay.
is not a major artery.
would be a need for a waiver?
And then, we're not sure because we don't have the scale or proximity to neighboring roads, whether or not, how close we are to County Highway 44, whether or not it requires a 239 referral. So,
Yeah, the need for an updated survey was discussed and, with the owner, so, this just reiterates that fact that we need it.
Yeah,
So
right.
I'll convey that to the owner.
okay. That's all I have.
Did you submit a cover letter?
I believe we did.
Because you made reference to it, but I was looking through my packet and I didn't see it. Noreen, do you recall?
No, I have one of the originals here. I don't remember a cover letter, just the application.
There's a land use determination form, C of O, building permit, a letter from the building department, tax assessor information, the deed, the EAF.
No, my mistake, Chair, Madam Chair. The cover letter was released to the building department. I said
So you don't have, you,
we did not submit one to the planning board.
okay. So, and Mike, this is a special use permit?
Yes.
Okay, so we'll need to, at some point, determine the special use permit application complete. Once the site plan's complete, this will require a public hearing,
Yes.
just for informational purposes.
Sorry.
No, you're fine.
Also, the planning board now has architectural review board requirements
Okay.
and authority. And so I believe this particular application would be subject to architectural review, but Mike, if you could just take a look at the regulations and confirm that, because other than single-family dwelling, site plan special use permits are subject to architectural review. So this is already constructed, and so we're really only dealing with the basement use. Is that what's happening?
That's correct.
Okay, so perhaps you could submit photos. Are there any improvements that are going to be added? Like what's specifically being added as part of this application?
Well, it's an existing basement, and when the original C of O was issued, it did include a Passover kitchen and I believe a half bath. So that was already a part of the basement. Now, to make the basement comply with the International Building Code for a public assembly, there will be other things that need to be added. For example, for light and ventilation requirements, exit requirements, separation from this place of public assembly from the rest of the house. So there actually, the A2 that you have in your package begins to delineate some of the things that will be needed to bring this up to the building code, not the zoning code, but the building code. So to answer your question, it won't change the footprint of the house. It won't change anything like that. The upgrades would need to be done within the parameters of the existing basement.
So in terms of, again, maximum occupancy for this place of worship, what is the peak occupancy for the structure?
16.
16. And then in addition, you have a family that's residing there, the rabbi, or is it just the rabbi?
There is a family there.
Okay, and so, I guess in terms of parking spaces, how many parking spaces are there now?
Well, on the SP1, if you see the graphic that shows 3 cars, that's the existing parking. So we're asking to consideration that the board allow us to add 2 more spaces in that area, while we do realize it is the front yard. So, that's why we're asking for the waiver. It fits with the context of the neighborhood. It fits within the context of that existing house and property. The 3 spaces are already there, so adding 10 and 10 feet on each side would just be a natural evolution for the parking, and it does provide access directly to the basement where the congregates will be going.
The way that the map is drawn, you have an existing gravel drive with the 3 spaces, and then the existing gravel drive appears to go, does it go off-site? Does it extend off of the property?
Yeah, no, my apologies to the board regarding this. It was the only information we had. But if you were to continue, if the existing, you see the note, existing gravel drive, you see how it meets that diagonal line?
Yeah, actually, you can look over here.
Oh.
I don't know what the date is of this aerial, but so I've oriented it to be similar to the map. So here's the pool,
Yes,
right? And here's the completed building.
correct.
And then I guess this is the parking space, the parking area you're referring to.
That is correct.
Now,
That's the gravel drive.
so this though here is in the Village of South Blooming Grove?
Yes, and that's Kingsville Court.
Okay. So odd, because it's partly in the town, partly,
And the property line, may I?
Yeah,
get
sure,
up? May
sure,
I get up? Oh,
sure.
The property line actually intersects right here.
so is a portion of the property the frontage within the Village of South Blooming Grove?
I would say, I would be comfortable in saying a portion of this gravel drive
Yeah.
that connects to
Actually, sorry.
Kingsville Court. I said by magic, right?
So
There is no more gravel drive.
this is the property. As you're saying that, I'm realizing I have this up. So this is, I guess, this must be the boundary
The
between.
right of, it looks like the right of way.
Yeah, and this in here must be just part of right of way
Correct.
that extends to the,
That's what it looks like.
okay, yeah, the village, let's just put some area behind this. Yeah, come on.
But as we discussed that it's near the municipal boundary, that automatically triggers a 239 referral.
Okay,
And that's reasonable,
Yeah.
we agree, sure.
right, and I think also for 239 NN, we'll have some public hearing
Yes.
notices, okay. That also goes to the village of South Blooming Grove, and then I think, does it also go to the town of Blooming Grove? Because it's technically both, I guess. Okay,
Can you go to the other overlay?
yep, so you wanna go back to here?
Yep.
Okay,
So, to the right of the existing gravel driveway, that's Kingswood? Where's Kingswood?
so this is Kingswood,
This is Kingsville Court,
Kingsville, sorry.
coming right here, and it ends in this circular fashion.
On Google Maps, it shows like a through road from
Right.
Fort Worth to Seven Springs,
So-
so.
So this is what I was questioning. This is showing up on Google as if this goes all the way out. So if I put the street view on, see how
Right.
it's showing this Kingsville?
There is no road there
No, is it,
that bisects the property.
is there a relationship between the ownerships, or just it's like a trail, informal trail?
I don't have an answer
Okay.
to that. I mean, I've walked the property, I don't see a road. I mean, the septic system is right here.
Yeah, because when I turn the labeling off over here, it looks like there's some kind of path, right? And really, it's a matter of, should it be shown on the map? You know, and again, just is there some relationship between this property and this property if there is a path?
I'll tell you, there is nothing I know of.
Okay,
Yeah.
perhaps you could speak to the applicant,
Sure.
so we just know if this is something being used as a driveway, we should be aware of it, because maybe there is a relationship between the synagogue use, place of worship use, and this property, but I don't know.
I'll tell you, I've driven there, I'm very safe in saying there is no way you can drive along that
Through there,
property.
okay.
At all.
Is it possible to either add a location map to the cover page or at least show an extension of the existing driveway where it meets a public road?
Yeah, Anthony, absolutely. I definitely agree with the board. We need to update the plans. We need to get updated information. And of course, an area vicinity map along with the updated survey would answer all those questions.
It's interesting because this is, I guess, old information. It was showing as being within the ownership of County of Orange. Although $1, 11/14/2017, it's Kingsville Synagogue. So, do we know anything about ownership? Because right now, it's showing as if the current ownership is County of Orange. Or maybe it was like in foreclosure and then it went back to them, like just
Tax sale, yeah.
some kind of tax sale. So if you could look into that. It could be an error.
Yeah, it should be in the application.
You
I
did.
thought the assessor's office said that it was, Kingsville.
They confirmed it?
Well, just in the general conversation, I didn't ask for it on the record, I just asked her a question.
And I, before we continue, I keep referring to this as Kingsville Court. I want to correct myself, it's Kingsville Drive. Okay, so I thank you for your tolerance in that. We had requested a deed from the owner.
There is a deed in the.
Right.
There is, okay. I'm pretty sure that Kingsville Synagogue has been in existence at this building for a few years.
Okay. So the deed is dated from 2000, I guess 7 or 2008. So maybe we could just do a quick check because it shouldn't be showing up as County of Orange. That's probably an error, but let's make sure that there's not some foreclosure or some tax lien that was put on it, or that somehow it got foreclosed on but they purchased it back. It's just odd that County of Orange is there, and it must be a mistake.
I agree, for
So.
sure.
Is the
Okay.
pool going to be for public or congressional use, or is that a private pool?
The pool is not for congressional use.
A congregational
Oh,
use?
congregational.
Sorry.
Nobody would let Congress in this.
Yeah, right.
Congregational use.
Sorry, pardon me.
Senator's going in there.
Congregational use.
So, in terms of then, again, potential disturbances, is this, speak to us about the sewer and water situation, whether, is it on Village of South Blooming Grove? Is it attached to their sewer district, or it's on septic? I don't recall.
Well, it's definitely on septic. The plot plan we refer to, and as your municipal engineer definitely noted, should be a site plan. There is definitely, without question, is a septic on the field.
Okay.
On the property. It's
Oh.
located there.
Okay.
So, and the septic tank is located.
And so, I don't,
And there is I don't mean to interrupt.
No, that's
I'm
okay.
sorry. And it is well
water.
Not municipal water.
In your comments, did you mention having to test to see the size of the septic?
We didn't, only because we needed to nail down the number of people using
Okay.
the septic first.
Okay.
So
I think one of the questions would be, is it sized adequately to handle the home itself? I don't know how many bedrooms it was approved for, just as a single-family residence. And then, in addition, now you have this use now, place of worship, and what the requirement for a place of worship would be for a septic.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because now it's really an assembly use as opposed to a single-family dwelling use.
Both, right.
Right. So,
Would there be any fire codes for fire suppression and well and storage?
Well, no, what we present now on A2 is an architectural plan showing this assembly use, and how it does comply with the code, and so a fire suppression system would not be needed, but a fire alarm system would be needed.
getting back to the question of septic, do you know about where the septic's located on the site? I'm sorry, like if you could show it on the aerial. Is it, again, if we're oriented correctly, is it up in,
It would be right here.
right in here? Okay. So a lot of that's already lawn area.
Also, Mark had printed out the county, the inventory from the county, and it notes it as 4 bedrooms, although we know county isn't typically always correct, so.
Okay.
I think the latest, the deed you have listed as 4 bedrooms.
Okay.
also.
So
If you could note that on the plans for the septic review.
Okay, sure, absolutely.
what is happening here? Is that still there? Is that rock, or was this under construction? Or I'm just curious.
This is landscape.
It's landscaping in there? Okay. Yeah, I can't tell at this scale.
And also, while we're on the topic of landscaping, the thought of the trees had come up. So I just wanted to show you our thinking regarding the location of the 5 trees or shrubbery, or to what extent. That would be right here, separate, blocking the view of this house here from this area.
Okay.
Because that's the closest, which is far away actually, but the closest house would be here. And if we do the plantings here, I'm hoping, or I believe that would satisfy the code as far as screening.
Okay.
If the planning board agrees with the waiver to allow us to park within the front yard.
I wanted to just make sure that, again, there's no expansions or additional disturbances other than the parking, because we also have a tree code, and we would want our EMC to go out and check out the site if there were disturbances. But it appears that the septic area, if it needed to be expanded, it probably could be expanded within the lawn area that's already there. And I don't know that you need a new well. And if the parking is moved to the rear, we'd have to find a location, and preferably a location that wasn't going to require additional tree cutting or
It would,
things of that nature.
yeah, it would be non-contextual to move the parking away from that area. The slope, there is a slope, slight slope to the land. It would be difficult to bring it down there, that septic area. We wouldn't want to park on top of that area. Bringing it around this side would be just non-utilitarian. So there is a reasonableness, while it does require a waiver from the board, there is a reasonableness to continue with the parking at that location.
At some point, I think we want to lay out what the limits of disturbance are, even if it's just for the parking, or if for some reason the septic has to be increased.
Okay.
On the environmental assessment form, 2 items popped up. One was the State Historic Preservation Office identifies that this is within proximity to an archaeologically sensitive area. And the other is that you're in an area that may contain habitat for the Indiana bat, northern long-eared bat. So if there's any tree cutting, we need to limit the time for that and limit the amount of trees that are cut. And in terms of SHPO, if you're going to be installing improvements within areas that are already disturbed, it's not a concern. But if we start to get into areas that are not disturbed, then we might send it up to State Historic Preservation Office. So when we show any improvements, it's just good to know whether they're in already disturbed areas. And if you could note that maybe in a narrative.
Yes.
So, and I think
It
going
would
forward,
it
yeah.
would the limits of disturbance would depend on 2 things: whether or not the septic system would need to be increased and the additional parking. Those would be the areas of disturbance. Again, the footprint of the building will not be changing.
Okay.
And everything that you see there is in the process of being permitted. So I think we can identify the 2 areas of disturbance.
Those are my comments. I don't know if the board has additional comments.
How much of what we're seeing on A2 is already in existence?
Okay, so in A2, the Passover kitchen is in existence. The closet to its immediate right is in existence. The walls, the wall and door that are to the left of the existing stairs are not there. That would need to be provided. The walls surrounding the storage closet exist. The entrance, as we continue to the left and up the page, the entrance exists, the 2 toilets exist, the 2 sinks do not exist, and that would have to be added.
Is the bathroom and access in to this area?
Oh,
Or I'm misreading it.
so
The exterior doors,
You have the double exterior doors, which
Right.
lead into a,
an exterior area?
no, it's not exterior, it's
Oh,
a
okay.
foyer area.
Oh, so foyers beyond this.
Correct, and that foyer area would house 2 sinks and 2 existing toilets. And
Oh,
then-
you're saying the foyer area is the area with the 2 bathrooms and the 2 sinks?
Correct,
Sinks are in the foyer?
yes. Well, that's what's being proposed, then they don't exist right now.
Right, so that's what I was
What-
asking. Those exterior doors there, are
They
they going
exist.
direct, they exist now?
Yes,
So they were going to put, is this the primary way into the place of worship?
yes.
That's, okay.
Those 2 double doors, and may I go back up to the map?
Mm-hmm.
That would be, those doors exist right about here on the house.
So I guess code allows that?
Yes.
Or, okay.
So the CO refers to, right, the Passover kitchen, it refers to a washroom and a half bath. So is what we're calling the washroom what we're now calling like the foyer where the sinks are, will be, or, and do 2 separate closed-off toilet areas, I guess, qualify as a half bath? Or is that 2 half baths? Which would make a whole bath, but you know.
2 rooms?
Right.
It is a unique arrangement of fixtures.
It is a unique arrangement of fixtures. I guess my question is this unique arrangement of fixtures what was permitted in the CO? Or is that a deviation really from what was originally planned out?
I would have to wait for the building inspector to make that determination.
Do you know how many families make up the congregation?
No, I don't. I do want, it's my understanding that it would take in these 3 homes. The existing home, the one next to it, and the other one above it. Those are the members of the synagogue.
And part of the reason I'm asking that is in relation to parking.
Yes.
And the need for parking and the demand for parking. Do you know how many members of the congregation that live in the house or in the Wagshall family?
No, I don't. I do think there's, well, I know there's 1 car for sure. I don't know about the others. And, well, go ahead. You ask questions.
Again, I guess I was just trying to gauge both parking and how reasonable it is, like how many member families there were that would make up 16 people as a maximum occupancy or maximum, whatever that we're talking about,
Yeah.
in relation to that. So if it's the 3 houses in the triangle, and certainly on the Sabbath, everyone's walking to the synagogue anyway. Okay.
Correct.
But everyone's located concurrent to the property. Okay, that's what I was kind of wondering.
That's why I stopped talking, but now that you brought that up, I want to bring it, I'd like to bring it to the attention. When they do meet, it is on Saturday, and there is no driving. Everyone walks to the location. However, you do have a zoning code in effect, so we are trying to comply with it. Would the additional 2 parking spaces be needed in practical terms? No.
I know there was another synagogue, I'm not sure where it was located, that was being expanded, and I thought that although services are held and they walk during services, at other times of the week, there may be other activities going on, whether it was like a shul or something else. So I didn't know whether still there may be a demand for parking because there's more activities than simply what happens on the weekend.
I asked that question, and I'm being told that the only service is that occurs on Saturday.
I think we'd want more confirmation of that, because if we're going to write a special use permit, ultimately we're going to write it and establish what activities go on and where. So, you know, if we write it in a way that says that the activities occur only on the weekends, and then in fact there's things happening during the week, you know, he could end up being violated. So it's useful to really ask the rabbi, you know, really to consider and foresee what activities may end up occurring there, even if, you know, it's during the week.
Would a letter from the rabbi suffice?
The
You know,
letter
to some-
has a detailed narrative of
Yeah.
what uses will be carried out, yeah.
Sure,
Right.
not a problem.
Because the narrative and the activities are going to end up being integrated into the special permit, which allows the use. So the more detail he can provide, you know, the better. So if 16 is what he's contemplating now, but if, you know, a year from now he's thinking of 20, or, you know, he's going to be back in here. So I think, again, you know, really thinking through how many families are here, how many, you know, people will be assembling here, so that, you know, we plan accordingly for the facility.
That's reasonable.
We'll get to the unreasonable stuff soon.
I was hoping we wouldn't, because that's an argument I might lose, so I don't want to get to that part. Let's stay with the reasonable part.
I have a question, and maybe it's really for Mike. In relation to the entity disclosure form, and I guess I've been thinking about this more and more as we've been looking at more and more projects. Other than that disclosure form, that quasi-affidavit, do we do anything to verify, or do we have any kind of verification that if a property is owned by an entity other than individuals, that that entity really exists? So if it's a synagogue, in all likelihood, it's a nonprofit it's nonprofit corporation, so there'd be a certificate of incorporation. Do we request that as part of our packets? There was no, in the transfer from the Wagchills to the synagogue, it was done over the matter of $10, which is absolutely an appropriate kind of transaction. So no banking institution was ever involved in supplying a mortgage, any of those kinds of things where they would have verified that kind of thing.
Certainly, these can be looked up on the Department of State.
In the Department of State.
But
Okay.
we do have a requirement in section B to list the officers, limited or general partners, directors, members, depending upon whether it's an LLC, a corporation. It's currently listed as NA, but especially since here there's going to be a residency requirement, there needs to be something to demonstrate that Rabbi Wagshaw, if that's who it is in fact a principal of Kingsville Synagogue. And what is Kingsville Synagogue? Is it an LLC? Is it a corporation? We know it exists because the deed couldn't have been recorded without a tax ID number for that entity, but
Okay.
you're right, we need a little bit more about it, and we need the B section to be filled out as well.
This is actually a question for Ward. In terms of tree species, I think they're proposing to plant either a Norway spruce or what was the other plant listed on the front already? Or a blue spruce. I thought there was a spruce that was now considered invasive in New York. Do you recall which one, or is it not a spruce? Am I
It's not a
confusing?
spruce, but deer problems and then drought problems in the last, we had an extended period of drought, which went on for almost 6 years. The blue spruce been taking a hit because the drought, while it wasn't for a full 12 months out of it, it was in the worst appropriate part of the year. It was during the growing season.
Mhm.
So those species, which normally would uptake nutrients, were living on their reserves, and you see a lot of dying and dead blue spruce. And the death certificate, if they did issue one, would be diseases which would be considered normally like a common cold. But if you have a weakened species, a common cold can be fatal. That's why Norway, in my experiences, I did an experiment about 12 years ago. For my seed supplier, I planted 10 to 12 different varieties of evergreens, all from the same amount of seed. Then I watched, because global warming is occurring whether people are in denial or not. So, and the results were quite dramatic. The Norways were much more resilient of these weird environmental swings.
Okay.
So that's one of my concern. If you're trying to do a screen, it does little good to have a screen where looks like telephone poles rather than
Right,
something that's alive.
right. That, and if there's a lot of deer browse on them, I don't know that Norway spruce will be as browsed as
The
others.
Norway spruce are not as well. The blue spruce was premium in that for a long time, and that deer stayed away from.
Okay,
They were like touching prickly cactus.
okay,
But I've seen them attack, but rarely. The next one that came up with a Norway spruce is slightly more fragile, but still highly resistant,
okay,
depending on what your neighbors have. Deer will always fixate on something that's most powerful, and they'll zero in on that species until there's nothing left of it. But on another question you had?
well, I think because there's a recommendation ultimately, if the planning board allows screening in the front, the two suggestions were blue spruce, Norway, or whether you would have a recommendation or the EMC would have a recommendation for the type of screening.
It depends a whole lot on how dry that area is. How
Yeah.
does it drain well?
The soils and the drainage
that
okay.
really, you need a soil profile almost to analyze that. Reading off a map is
Okay.
almost sometimes an exercise in futility.
Is it worth going for the EMC taking a quick look at the site just to see where they may be planted?
It might be a good suggestion.
Okay. How does the board feel about that? Send this over to the EMC? Yes? Sounds good? Okay,
Just
so,
contact John and
okay, yeah, and we'll send over, Noreen, let's make sure a map gets over to John Ebert so that they can take a look at that area and come up with a suggested planting plan, if the planning board allows it within the front yard. That's part of the decision that has to be made by the board.
okay,
Thanks, Ward.
you're welcome.
So, other questions of the applicant?
I'll go. So we discussed that the water's is a well, it's going to a septic system, and I think we discussed earlier, I didn't write it down, about testing it at a full usage for 16 people. Was that discussed?
No, but it would have to be demonstrated that it could meet the supply of the theoretical usage of the congregation and the homeowners.
We could provide the calculations, show what the gallons per minute would be needed,
Mm-hmm.
and then if you want the well tested to see if it produces that gallon per minute rate, I'll talk to the owner about that.
I think it'd be appropriate, sure.
Another question about parking. Is this going to be ADA compliant? Is that could be a hike and a half for somebody who might need the handicap parking spot?
Yeah, what we're proposing is not ADA compliant, and I didn't see that requirement in the zoning code, so I'd have to research that, and we'd have to research it in the International Building Code also.
Okay. And then lastly, are we building this to meet current demand, or is this, like Bonnie alluded to earlier, if next year you have 20 people there, you're going to be right back here. Is this to meet current demand, or are we predicting demand for a few years down the line?
What I propose to you right now is the current demand.
Okay.
Those are your questions?
Yep, that's it.
And just to clarify, so it was Norway maple, which is regulated in New York State now. I was thinking Norway, but it wasn't spruce. Thanks. Okay. Lisa, Rich, any questions? No? You good? Any more?
I'm okay, but with regards to the trees, would there be a security or some kind of insurance that a year later that they're not destroyed by or at least they're protected from deer or drought?
We could require some details be added. I'm trying to remember, I'd have to look into the tree section, whether there were details for planting time periods. Okay, well, I'll take a look. But usually we have some standards as far as 2 growing seasons, and, you know, we can include the proper details just to make sure that they are replaced in the event that,
Well,
they don't make it.
I would imagine the owner would have to keep it in perpetuity.
Right.
And make sure it remains in effect as a screening
Right.
buffer. So we agree with that.
Okay,
Sure.
thank you. All right, Mike, any comments? No. Sean, any more?
No.
All right. So I think you have, you know, comments from the engineer and our comments, and requires additional submission and information clarification. So when we receive that,
Would it be agreeable with the board that the engineer amend his comments per our meeting and then send me a copy so I could share that with the owner?
Sure, though, Mark plans on sharing them for Tuesday's meeting, so.
So we won't be I don't think there's a need for us to be present at Tuesday's meeting,
Okay.
the formal meeting. So after that
Sure.
meeting, could you send me the comments?
Sure.
Okay, great. Thank you.
and then perhaps, Sean, you could summarize, or Noreen, you could get a summary of the planning board's comments.
I have taken notes.
You have those? Okay.
Thank
So you get a full list from everyone here.
Yeah,
Yep.
that would be great.
No
Thank you.
problem.
Sure.
Thank you. I
Thank you
think
very
that's it.
much, everyone.
Thanks.
Thank you.
I think I might stay for the next one.
Stand up, sit down, come back. No, I'm just kidding.
Leave, turn around the chair.
All right, so next on our agenda, returning projects, Romero 40 Overlook Drive. Where are we on this one?
We have not received the 239 back yet, unless you received anything, Mike.
I didn't. In fact, today I did send Megan Tennerman a quick note just to let her know that we were meeting today, and then we have another meeting on Tuesday, hoping that might get a quicker turnaround, but I didn't see anything today, so.
Thank you for your effort. I appreciate that.
Sure. Where were we on amendments or revisions or the engineer's comments for Romero?
I have some comments. The first one is kind of a big one. Per the new code, the application must meet all zoning bulk requirements, and there are some nonconformities.
We brought that up at the last meeting.
Okay. So I don't know where that,
It's a pre-existing non-conforming use.
right, but the new requirements are that it has to meet all.
Yeah, I don't know
Right.
that you can have an accessory apartment in a house that doesn't meet code
Right.
is what Sean is saying, and I think
Right.
that may be correct. Whether the zoning board can grant relief or not, I don't know.
I think that's
I'm not aware.
something for Mike to take a look at
Right.
and determine whether in fact they would need a variance from that.
I'll try to do that before Tuesday.
Okay, thank you, Mike.
Then Mark kind of discusses each line item of the code and how it applies. I don't see any real issues. One may be that the dwelling must exist for 10 years prior to existence. Looking at the county's inventory, or I should say the sales, it looks like a land and building was sold in '99. It doesn't say whether it was a dwelling at that point.
Yeah, There's a lot of inconsistent stuff.
Right, and then the inventory notes that the year built was 2013, so that kind of has to be nailed down.
I agree. We discussed, I thought those were resolved issues,
Oh.
because we discussed it at length at the last board meeting, and we still went ahead with the draft resolution. All those issues were brought up and
Okay.
acknowledged.
I wasn't aware of that, so.
Yeah. I'm hoping that that's not a obstacle to the board or an obstacle.
Well,
to
when
the
was the house constructed?
I let's see.
Because there is an exception, I think, right? We did this once before. If it has not been 10 years, that can be waived if it is for the care of an elderly or
Right.
sick relative. But if it's not, I don't believe the 10-year period is waivable.
Right, so
I'd
if we
have to
look,
look at it.
if we look at what's, again, I don't know how always reliable it is, but Image Made Online, which is attached to real property, it's showing that the Cape Cod, the year built was 2013. Let's see, inventory, improvements. And the report just put on in 2014.
Right, but if you go to the owner sales,
Owner sales,
every time it was sold, it's listed as land and building, and the first time was in '99.
right. And so it's showing in 99, 210, one-family residence, as if it existed back in 2010, sorry, in 1999.
I would agree.
But in other places, it shows
2013.
construction in 2013. I don't know.
Right.
Yeah.
Try something. What did,
Ben's records.
what did, I was gonna say, Ben's records, what did they show?
I don't know that I have.
Trying to find on this map
I
over
don't have
Drive.
anything from Ben.
You don't have anything?
No,
Unless I'm missing it.
no.
No, it's not stapled to
I don't see the
Anthony's
CO
copy
either.
I don't think I can access my emails here.
Because listed as an attachment is the town assessor data cost. So I don't know if that's
Believe
here.
it's
Yeah,
there.
that part, yeah,
Right.
okay, yep.
It notes it as year built 2013, but I'm sure that's where the county came up with their 2013.
Do you have anything in your records as far as the building?
No, the
Inspector?
furthest back, my title, the title I have goes as 2013.
I'm actually trying to, this is a website that has historic aerials on it. I'm trying to orient myself, I'm getting a little lost here. I'm trying to find, where's Lexington Hills? This is not it, this is the Grand Union. Here we go, that's Lexington Hills.
Does that help you?
Yes, thank you. Here we go. So it's right around here, right?
Yep.
So let's see. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4 houses back. 1, 2, 3. This should be the house here,
Right.
right?
Yep, right in the dip of that curve.
So this is 2013, and if I go on this side to 1994. It's a bad aerial. 2004. So on this side is 2013 aerial, and then on this side, a 2004 aerial will show up. And then I can move the bar. So this is showing a home that was there in 2004. So if it was there in 2004, it would be 10 years.
Right.
So you should be okay, but I think we still need just the building inspector to verify. But the aerial suggests that it was there.
Absolutely.
Okay. Any other comments about that?
Sure. Just one more is about the parking. The code requires 2 spaces per unit, which would be 4 total. The plan shows 4 parking spaces, but we're unclear whether or not a turnaround is available for all 4 spaces, which is required. So,
Yeah, we had discussed that at length at the last board meeting,
Okay.
and the layout was agreeable to the board.
okay.
We definitely show enough area for a car to maneuver in and out of that space.
Everybody, any comments on that? No?
I forget, with the proposed changes, is there a garage still as part of the house? Or
Yes,
a 2-car garage?
yes. But the one car, the one space, we're encroaching onto the garage, into the garage
Yeah.
to make the apartment. One space would be for a larger car, the other space would be for a smaller car, but 2 cars would fit. Compact car.
The area limitations all work? The percentage and the maximum size? and all
Right,
that?
so Mark notes that the apartment area is listed at 750 square feet, which is the maximum. And he notes that it's approximately 24% of the gross area, which is under the 30 set by the code, so.
Okay.
So at this point, the question is, when this was established, that the house was supposed to meet code and
Right.
as far as bulk requirements, and
Right.
this doesn't, so Mike will look at.
I'll look at the HOLO and see whether or not that
and it's-
relief is available from
Right.
the zoning board.
Okay, I think that's where we are,
Get Ben's letter and send that to you tomorrow.
Thank you.
right? And then you just need, we need confirmation from Ben that yes, this existed for at least 10 years.
Mhm.
Okay. Anything else? Board members? Questions? No? So I think, and regardless, we're still waiting for the general municipal law review. So,
239 would do.
right, and I think it was April 13th
Mm-hmm.
that it was sent, so,
3 more days.
yeah, they have several more days. If we don't receive it within 30 days, then we can take action without having received it. So we'll have to wait for that, but I think there's a bigger hurdle here potentially with the bulk requirements, so
Right.
we'll hear back from Mike. All right?
So for our course of action, would we be involved with Tuesday's meeting?
Well, I'd like to think I'll get the letter to you Tuesday. It may well be that the answer is going to be you have to apply to the zoning board, in which case, I don't know that you want to come to do that.
Right.
I'll try to get it out Monday. I'm not in the office tomorrow. I'm here in the morning and then I'm out in the afternoon. But I'll try my best to get it done Monday.
Should we include this application for the time being on Tuesday? And then if they just don't need to make the appearance because the letter's out, then you don't have to be here. But we'll at least
Sure.
schedule you for an appearance.
You know what, we appreciate that, and we appreciate the diligence of the board and the engineer and the attorney. There is a big need in this particular case, so we welcome all that you're doing, and so we thank you, I'm sure, on behalf of the owner.
Thank you. All right. So you'll hear from, we'll hopefully hear from Mike by Monday, you know, if he can't get to it by Tuesday, and in one way or the other, we'll have a sense of whether the variances are required.
Sure.
Okay? Thank you very much.
Have a good evening, everyone.
You too.
All right, so that is the last of our applicants and applications. So we have, how many sets of minutes at this point? 4 in front of us? So March 8th, March 20th. April 17th. Not seeing April 12th, but I think I had it already. All right, why don't we start with March 8th. Has everybody had a chance to review the minutes?
Yes.
Are there any recommended revisions, suggested revisions to the minutes? No? All right, that being said, could someone make a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll second that.
Yes. So I'll make the motion to approve the minutes.
Thank you. And who seconded?
I did.
Jason, okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstentions?
I abstain.
All right. That's approved. And let's go to March 20th. Now, the March 20th minutes also have attachments. And I'm wondering whether if we're going to be attaching minutes, or sorry, comments. This particular application included the resolution for the approval of Bald Hill Estates. So should we include that just as attachment? Is it useful or?
Read the accessory apartment law. If an attachment is mentioned, you mean, should it be included
Yeah,
as part
should
of
it
the
be,
minutes?
we just have attachments for the engineer's comment letters, but I'm wondering, since we actually acted this evening on the resolution of approval for Bald Hill, should we just attach it here?
Is that doable in that program? Does that work?
Yeah, I can attach
Yeah,
it, I
then
just
it makes
wasn't sure
sense
if I
then.
should attach resolutions.
Why not?
Okay,
I think it's useful.
I will add that in the morning.
Okay, so that's my one suggested revision. Does anybody have any other revisions? No? Okay. Could someone make a motion to approve the March 20th minutes?
I'll make the motion to approve the minutes.
I need a
Seconded?
Okay, that's Jeff. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? And then any abstentions?
I abstain.
Okay. Okay, those minutes are approved. So I cannot find, is this April 12th? Here they are.
Attachments on.
Okay, next set of minutes are for April 12th, 2018. And again, I think just as a matter of practice, we can attach the resolutions
Mm-hmm.
to the minutes. So there are 2 there, one for Freed and another one for Finney. Any suggested revisions to the minutes? No?
So I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes from our meeting on April 12th.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? And any abstentions?
I abstain.
Thank you. And then the April 17th meeting, we had ratification of the minutes, but I don't know that we have to include Aaron Freed and Vincent Finney here, because we'll include them on the previous minutes. But here we will attach Kingdom Hall and Raywood Cemetery to these minutes.
Okay.
Okay. Any revisions, comments? Okay. I'll make a motion to approve the April 17th, 2018 minutes. May I have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? And any abstentions? None. Okay. So the minutes of April 17th are approved. All right. Anything that the board members want to bring up? Anything we should be
Oh, I
aware of?
did want to just mention that I attended the workshop for the training and at the end of April. And a couple other board members were there as well.
Yeah, me too.
Was it worthwhile?
It was good.
Okay.
It was a video presentation, so it was very dry, so there wasn't any interaction.
Okay.
And I think it was just some boilerplate stuff. And it was in the dark, so it was pretty.
It was in the dark.
I felt like a mushroom.
Well, who offered it? Who was giving the?
So Alliance, I think, is the town's carrier.
Okay.
And so they must have made a videotape at one of the town's training conferences, because it was at the Monroe Theater.
Okay.
And they included workplace violence and also, anybody help me out on what else was?
That was rough.
I know,
I'll
well,
second
that was
Rich.
part of, yeah.
Kept asking us if we wanted to have any questions. It was a video.
Yeah.
Right.
Uh,
But you got credit for it as.
Right, it's a requirement for all town employees, so
Okay,
I
right.
think, and I think that's a yearly requirement.
Okay.
but we learned what global harmonization is.
Yeah,
Any
that's right to
idea?
know.
Well, I was going to say, can you tell us what that means?
Yes, it means they wanted the whole globe to use the same stickers that identify things like flammable and, corrosive chemical or something.
Oh.
And the one guy said, so this is right now the global symbol for flammable. Everyone uses it except for the New York State DOT. And I'm like, you're trying to make this global and you can't even get out of New York with everybody using the same sticker?
We're
and,
unique.
And that was 40 minutes probably. It was
Yeah.
it was
Speaking
very,
about
very-
the sticker?
Yes,
Yep.
it was
Oh.
painful.
The other thing
experience.
you might want to,
30 minutes on how to give a presentation. That's how we started it.
yeah.
And then broke all those rules.
I think some of the things that may apply here that you may want to consider has some substance was workplace violence prevention. And I know we've had a very good amiable board and good applicants here, but there could be a situation where we need to be able to appropriately deal with a potentially angry applicant who doesn't get what they want. So we want to take that back and consider something.
Yeah, well, we have Mike here.
But you do point out the exits, so
Emergency exit.
Yeah.
That's why I said
He'll
over here.
point it.
And yeah.
No, it is important. I actually had a situation in one of my municipalities where they were a group that I suspect had been drinking beforehand.
Mhm.
They were not happy with the planning board's decision, and the police were called in.
Yeah,
Because it was getting to that point, and
with
things
the-
calmed down as soon
with
as the
the-
police show up.
I was here, but with the previous board when we've had public hearings, and Mike and Mark did an excellent job of giving a pre-discussion of what is the requirement and what should be expected. And I think that does a lot to cool down everybody's expectations.
Right.
So.
Very good. Do our consultants have any comments or any matters to bring up? Noreen?
No, I'm good.
We're all good? All right. So with that, I'll make a motion to adjourn the meeting. May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carried. Meeting adjourned.
See you in the morning.
Thank you.